Young woman bought a construction trailer for $500 and moved into it. Incredible transformation. I'm sure people living in rented homes will relate to the woman from our story today and appreciate her ingenious way out of this situation. However, few would dare to follow her example, despite how amazing and fresh her idea was. Vika lives in Minsk. And she begins her story like this: being a student. I had to rent rooms and apartments for a long time. And for the most part, it was a bitter experience. There was a time when the landlord simply evicted me with no warning, just because his mother-in-law came to visit another apartment. It was impossible to get some peace and quiet there. But the last place was simply too much. The owner decided to clean my room in my absence and even went through my personal belongings. They decided to get her own place. No matter what. But how could she do that at first? She opted for a frame house at the price of about $7,000, but adding in the amount you have to pay for the land to put it on and to install the installation at the utilities. Basically. She quickly rejected this option, and then the young woman saw an old construction blur on one of the websites. It didn't look great, to put it mildly, but the woman figured that it still wouldn't be too expensive to fix off. She called the seller that same day and bought the trailer for only $500 since she already started the process. She soon purchased 10 acres of land near the city for $5,000 and moved the trailer there. As Vika says, it wasn't a rash decision. I have long dreamed of doing something like that. And so I watched a bunch of videos on the internet about daredevils who decided to do something similar, but I couldn't even imagine that one day I'd become one of them, thanks to her father, who was an experienced construction worker. That was easy for the young woman to put her thoughts into practice. Weeks passed and the nondescript trailer began to change. A metal door, the window openings were enlarged and double-glazed windows were installed. They did all this work together. However, Vika did turn to specialists for the arrangement of sewerage and the drilling of a well. It was fun for her to watch the curious neighbors, who didn't hesitate to come up, take an interest and even take pictures of the process at some point. It felt like my father and I were participating in some kind of a TV show, like building a house from nonsense. The girl laughs. Initially, she thought she'd only use the trailer during summer, but when they finished the interior, the floor was insulated and all the utilities were installed. She suddenly realized that it was quite possible to live there year-round. It's not just about how much money I can save if I live in my own place. It's like breaking free. I'm not constrained in my movements here. This is my personal space. No neighbors, no strange behaviors of landlords. I can drink coffee on my porch and enjoy the view and fresh air. I'm sure many people can relate to your own place. Is your own place? Local journalists heard about this unusual woman and decided to interview her. They asked if Vika wasn't afraid of living there on her own, but she only laughed in response, saying, "Well, I have a knack for Sierra, but it's a residential area. There are many people living in this neighborhood. So there's nothing to be afraid of, and my phone and internet work fine here." He thus started from the purchase of an old and nondescript trailer, following with the installation of communications and ending with the find works. Vika spent a little over $15,000 on her dream home. Now, she no longer needs to waste money on renting rooms or apartments, which are inferior to her home in terms of comfort and living conditions. And the most interesting part, Vika actually plans on building a real house on the site at some point. While this one will be used as a guest house or an extension, and somehow I get the feeling that she'll definitely implement her plan. So, if you're also tired of living in a rented place, that was a good example of a solution for a young petite woman who wasn't afraid of taking the risk and is now living happily in her brand new house.